Hi, I'm Corey,
I'm Bill.
and together we host the In Focus podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Gnome Recording Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll tell you all about Gnome Studios at the end of the show. Today we're talking about me. It's all about me.
It is all about you.
We're going to get to know me. Last episode, we got to know Bill. We got to meet him, a little about him.
And now we get to learn about our commander-in-chief on this podcast, so to speak.
I'll take that. I'll take that title.
So to jump right into it, how do we know each other, Corey?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think everybody, not only does everyone love a good origin story, but I think everyone deserves a good origin story. We met almost 15 years ago, I think.
I believe so. 05.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't think I can whistle into the microphone. That's probably not good, but yes.
Long time ago.
Yeah, we met at Best Buy. We were working together in retail and worked together for a couple of years there before we parted ways. And then, I think back to a couple of conversations we had just creatively, because I think at the time you were still
struggling.
You were struggling, but you had just recently graduated film school.
Yes.
Right? And I think when I learned that, I thought, this guy's probably pretty cool. Because at the time, I was a stills photographer. I'd gone
That's right.
To college. I think I was still a part-time student, like an occasional part-time student. I never fully completed my degree. Maybe we'll get into that later. But I had gone to college to be a photographer, visual communication, focus in photography. And I can remember having a conversation with you about a crazy idea that I had for like a TurboTax commercial, which you probably don't remember this, because it was, now that I think back to it, it was really stupid, but
and it was 15 years ago.
It was 15 years ago.
And we're old now.
I have this crazy memory. But I remember explaining to you where essentially like TurboTax, we got your back, and it's like this guy in a room, like surrounded by the feds, like in his house, but he's with his tax agent. But the way that I described it to you, I was articulating like the color temperature and the color of the lighting to set the mood. And you validated me. And like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but your validation was like, I can appreciate like the way you're describing like color setting the mood and the tone but clearly you were trying to dismiss me. Like, listen, like I just graduated from film school. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You get out of here.
Well, I was also like, I had an ego I did not need to have. I had no business having my ego, because I had literally zero work experience at that point.
Yeah. But everybody's got to start somewhere. Yeah. And, so I think we worked together for a little while there, and then we went our separate ways. And then it was probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 years after that, where I had a small business. I wanted some video content to start to produce some web commercials. Mm-hmm. And you were the first person that I thought of and I reached out to. And I remember, I think it was either a text or on social media. I just said, hey, Bill, are you still into video production?
Well, you'd seen the book trailer, my 7th grade in Life in Tights trailer. And you were like, oh, I love the lighting in that. I remember the message you sent me. And you wanted
I said, like, we need something similar. Like, I want to grow this business. We want something that's visually similar. Can you help me out?
Yeah. And I literally brought on the exact same crew from that video.
And that was, we ended up doing a couple, right? 2 or 3.
Yeah, we did
3.
We did 3. Yeah.
And those are great. But that for me was when I started to, in my mind, make the transition from like, I had almost completely given up on still photography. Like had no interest in being a photographer any longer at that point. I like money, and made the realization that to make a living as a stills photographer, the hustle is like no other. And I was not up for that. But to watch you and the team create what we ended up creating for that business in those videos was really cool and really inspiring. And I think part of what drove me to start to pursue that whole creative process again, which was cool.
Yeah, because I remember you were kind of an observer, but you were like an active observer. Like you were, you had that foundation in photography already, so you kind of understood, generally speaking, what we were doing as far as like framing and lighting and that sort of thing. And I could tell you were just like, I could almost see the eagerness in your face that you wanted a bigger hand in it in the future. I could kind of see it.
I do appreciate you crediting me on IMDb as producer for those.
Yeah. Well, you came to me with like the concept laid out and everything, like an outline, and which is a lot more than you get sometimes from clients. And so just the legwork you did, that's producing.
Yeah. And that, like, even today, like I enjoy that, like the conceptualizing but I think there's a balance. Like if it's something that I find interesting or entertaining, like I have no problem doing that. Mm-hmm. But more often I would prefer to just like, I want to show up and like, you tell me what we're shooting and let me light it. Let me shoot it.
Yeah. And then we worked after that. I think the first thing that I brought you on to was the Bryce Hitchcock video.
Yep.
That Stephen Knapp directed.
Yep.
And I brought you on as a first AC. And we did, that was a really fun shoot. Just like.
It was
long. It was all day. And,
And we shot that on the FS 700.
We did.
On the Ronin 2 for a big portion of it.
Yeah.
That was crazy. We had 2 locations. I think that was the first, not that the commercials that you produce were not big productions, but I felt like that experience, like there was hair and makeup, the artists, like there was a lot going on that day.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, all right, like this is cool. Like I'm into it.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting paid to be here, which was great.
Yeah, exactly. That's always an added benefit if you can be paid to be there.
Yeah. But it still was very much a small production. Like it was the director, and then I believe the 2 of us, and like 2 hands, 2 grips, or
there were some people coming and going on that shoot. I think shifts. There were shift changes.
Yeah, and then. That shoot specifically, like I remember when we got to the second location and the fog started rolling in.
Yes.
And just thinking like, this is a gift from the filmmaking gods.
Yeah.
Like, what it would take to actually haze this exterior is, in my mind at the time, I had no concept. I just thought, you could have done this with fog machines. No, absolutely not. You could not have.
And to be clear, this exterior was an airport. An abandoned airport with a large hangar and lots of open sky. So hazing that,
it would have been difficult. But like what was really cool to see was, I think, would the end result still have looked good? Probably. There was a lot going on, like circus acts and entertainers. Visually, there was a ton, but I think the luck of that fog moving in, like just all the stars aligning. I think at one point I remember looking at you like, this is a totally different shoot now. We got the big spotlights, like just raking through all this fog. It looked insane. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's one of those what they would call happy accidents. That was not on the shot list that the fog would roll in.
No. But that worked out really well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so coming from photography, what's different? What's the same? How's that transition been? And do you think that's given you a leg up as far as doing video?
Yeah. I think what's similar just from the creative process is, and what I have been able to pull from, maybe they weren't my wasted college years, but I definitely don't feel like I got everything I paid for.
And you went to?
I went here locally in Nashville Tech. They
Okay.
they actually had, and I don't want to discredit their photography program. It was amazing. I felt like I was a little more advanced than some of the remedial courses, just because they were super basic photography classes.
Yeah.
But I took a ton away from, like, the business of photography class was great. Like, you could apply that to almost any creative role, like as a graphic designer or a photographer, or like running an independent production company, just all the things to think about how you bill clients and how you interact. Like that was great. And I took a ton away from that. Portrait lighting, like some of the more advanced stuff, I think is where I really started to pull like good away from. And I think that's what's helped transition into filmmaking and video work, is like having a really good understanding of composition, really understanding how lighting works, not just what looks good on camera, but like truly the mechanics of how lighting functions in relation to like a film plane.
Yeah.
And being able to articulate how, like, what actually causes light fall off and how to manipulate that in the inverse square law. Like, if you want to get really technical, like, I'm your guy, because you spend a ton of time as a still photographer making that look right for a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
And like, it's critical for that fraction of a second. Where I think video is a lot more forgiving because there is movement, you're in and out of light. Like, I think there's, not to say that it's not as critical, but I think sometimes people that don't know would take that for granted.
Yeah.
So I think being able to apply composition and lighting and some of the more foundational components of that has really helped transition, at least for me, into the video work.
And plus the lens knowledge.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you lenses are interchangeable between photography and video.
Some people would argue they should not be, but yes.
I'm not one of those people.
I think
I do what works.
Yes, the best tool for the job is the tool that you have access to. And I think lenses apply very similar. Like I own a couple of REDs. I have cinema lenses. We rent cinema lenses, but I also own a nice set of like Canon still lenses that work if the project calls for something like that. Right. Which is great.
Yeah, that's cool. And you have that sort of flexibility to do that.
Yep.
So you are a bit of I'd say a Renaissance man. You have a lot of interests, and you do get into a lot of things. And I know you also are a drone pilot, so I know you've gotten a lot of drone video. I don't know if you want to talk about that some. Yeah,
I am Part 107 licensed. I've been licensed for a few years now, long enough that I've had to go retake my like recertification after the couple years. But I appreciate the Renaissance nod. I definitely, over the years, I've had a lot of interests, a lot of hobbies. I feel like I am an achiever in the sense that if I'm not doing anything and everything possible, I feel like I'm not being productive enough. And sometimes that's difficult to like balance hobbies and side businesses and second startups and all the things. So I've definitely, as of the last couple of years, I have narrowed that down to really just my full-time, like Monday through Friday career, and then what I would consider at this point like my side hustle of video production.
Nice. And so talk about the side hustle a little bit. What else are you into as far as the side hustle is concerned? I know you do rent your gear out.
Yep. So at this point, every side hustle is all film or video production related. So gear rental is a big one. I use a website called ShareGrid, which is, I think the best way to describe it would be almost like an Airbnb for production equipment, for camera equipment, stills, video, lighting, all the things. Like if you have a need for a camera that you don't own, ShareGrid, like there are rental houses on there, but there are also like independent owner operators that list their own gear there. And I feel like I got really lucky trying ShareGrid a couple of years ago when it was still very early in Nashville. There's a huge ShareGrid community like in LA and New York and Atlanta. But I think at the time when I first joined and started listing some of my cinema gear, there were only like 3 or 4 local accounts at the time. And I've grown to the point where I think at this point I'm the most reviewed renter on the site.
That's awesome.
I think I have most of my gear is listed there. Like both of my REDs are available, all my lighting gear, all of my lenses, pretty much everything is available there. And it is a really good way, not only to supplement creator income, but obviously I use that to fund any of the gear that I purchase. So if I want a new set of lenses or a new camera or whatever it is,
Yeah.
I just take whatever the purchase price is, divide that by 30. That's the rental cost. And then I know, like, after 30 rentals, it's paid for.
Yeah.
But the other great benefit is the network that ShareGrid Rentals has enabled for me. Almost everyone that I know or that I've worked with, other than you, in the video production space, has all come through networking on ShareGrid. Like
That's awesome.
The Scott Stevens work that I've been able to do the last 3 music videos for him, that started with someone from his management team, and now his manager initially rented some little shitty lights from me, just like he needed these little RGB ones. And they worked for what he needed. But more importantly, like, now Cody and I have developed this really great relationship where, like, that's amazing. But I never would have met Cody or been in a position to work with him and his artist had it not been for ShareGrid.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of an unexpected benefit, I feel like, because when you think about gear, I never heard of ShareGrid till you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And you know, you just think of gear rental, you're like arbitrarily renting it out to people that kind of come and go as like a revolving door, but you don't actually connect with those people on a professional level.
Yeah.
But, so that's really awesome that's been kind of your way to build your network.
Yeah. And it was a little, I don't want to say sketchy, because I've never had a bad rental experience on ShareGrid.
That's good. Yet.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. No, hopefully not. But, I think what's great about ShareGrid is, they have a really rigorous background check. Like, you have to pass all of these checks and balances before they'll even approve a rental request. Mm-hmm. So, like, I get rental requests all the time from new renters that, I have to wait 2 or 3 hours for them to do their whole manual validation. Like, they check your ID, they do a simple background check and confirm all these social media accounts, just like to put more than just, like, it's not a stranger at that point. I mean, they're a stranger to me, but I know they've gone through this process. And then through the insurance that they provide, I know that the gear is covered. I also own my own separate policy for all of my gear. So
you've done a lot of different shoots since getting into the video industry.
You can call it the game.
The game, the video game.
I'm in the game,
not the video game, like video games.
No.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
So one shoot that I thought was very ambitious that we both worked on together was the Transylvania Stud White Witch album.
Yes.
Yes, I say album because your idea was to do a music video from first track to last track on this band's album.
Yes.
And tell an entire story.
Yes.
Which I love that idea. And more bands should do that, quite honestly, because talk about a great marriage of, visuals and audio to tell the story of someone's entire record. I mean, I think that's great. And so you hired me as DP to take on this ambitious task, and we went to Virginia. And I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate how you keep referring to it as ambitious and not crazy.
I mean, look, we're all a little crazy in this industry, and you have to be a little crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
So it becomes just ambition at a certain point.
Yeah. I think, and, more recently, like, there was a Machine Gun Kelly release for his latest album where they did the exact same thing. They started with the very first track, and it's basically this really well done, like, short film that every new scene is like a different music video.
Yeah, and another example of that I just watched actually was Daft Punk.
Yeah.
The Interstellar 555. It's like a big anime movie.
Yeah.
But it's their entire album.
Yeah. So I do think more artists should go that route, just because I think it's an amazing opportunity to connect a couple of different creative mediums. But the White Witch album, which Andrew was amazing. Like, I remember I was on an airplane about to take off, And he had trusted me. The very first music video I ever did was also for him. And it was like we did it in a barn and in a motel. I think it was a Super 8 or like one of those where I paid $100 for the room and we just shot in it, like total guerrilla style. But I remember I texted him. I said, "Hey, do you have any new music coming up? Because like I need to do more. Like I need to get more in my reel. I need to get more experience. And like you trusted me the first time. Like let's do something again."
Yeah.
And he said, like, "I've got some new music coming up. I'll shoot you some links so you can check it out." And before the plane even took off, I said, like, "I have a crazy idea. What if we did a video for every song?" Because in my mind, I'm like, what better opportunity to get a lot of experience than to just do a whole bunch of them all at once? And he said, "I love it. Let's do it." And so I came up with this like really loose outline with some input from him, from some ideas. And, similar to other conversations, it's here's the idea, but here's the budget, which was nothing.
Yeah.
Like we cashed in Delta Skyline miles to fly out there, cashed in Hilton honors points to cover hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Like it was almost no cost at all. But it was really ambitious. So we flew out there with as much of my gear as we could check, which pro tip, if you check in on most airlines as a media production.
Oh, that's right.
There's no limit. Well, there is a limit to the number of bags, but they waive like weight limits. So I forget, we checked a
lot of gear.
a lot.
Yeah.
And it was like $50.
Yeah.
For all of it. Total.
Pro tip.
Yeah, which was crazy.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and we got the RED, we have a handful of lights, and the other cool thing, which was a good experience for me from a producer standpoint, was engaging with the Virginia Film Office.
Yeah.
And she was so helpful. And I said, like, "Hey, here's what I'm working with. I have literally no budget, but like if you have something that fits the need, like you let me know. Like we'll work it out. I'll figure something out." And we went back and forth a couple times with a few different ideas. And eventually she found this abandoned state penitentiary that I forget.
I think it was the James River Correctional.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. Only because I've Instagram tagged it a few times.
But she was able to work that out where we had that for the entire day, all to ourselves for free.
The entire prison.
Like she gave us the full guided tour when we got there, walked us through like, here are the places I would recommend. I recommend you stay away from these spots.
Here's where the asbestos lives.
Yeah. Like gave us all, but it was insane.
Yeah.
And so, we shot in a couple different places. We had, we guerrilla shot in
the liquor store.
Yeah, we guerrilla shot in a liquor store with my iPhone because the Virginia ABC would not approve of us actually filming. So hopefully that doesn't get me in trouble.
Yeah, and we did some car mount stuff.
We did a lot of car mount
stuff.
We the fishbowl look that we lit for the night stuff was great.
Yeah,
we did a one take with you on the glide cam, walking back like the full oneer. But yeah, the shots or the half day that we spent at the prison was just insane. It was so cool. And just still the fact that we got that for free.
I know.
Just by asking and like explaining like, hey, like independent filmmakers, it's a local artist.
Talk to your state film office.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, Tennessee's been the same way, at least in the past. I haven't really dealt with them as much since the Nashville boom. But I know state film offices are usually pretty hungry to have people come film in the state, and they'll recommend places, and they're usually pretty gracious in my experience. I've worked with the Louisiana Film Office too, and they've been really good.
Yeah, the crazy thing about Virginia was At the time, The Walking Dead was scouting a couple of locations.
Oh, that's right.
And like, I remember, like, she was just a wealth of knowledge, because she said, like, these places would be great for you, but if, like, you don't have a crew, so, like, it's really difficult to get gear there. Like she said, I don't recommend them. Though you would like them, I don't recommend them.
Yeah.
And then at the penitentiary that we got, I forget the name of the show, but there's an Ethan Hawke production that was like a Showtime production that was going on at the same time.
Oh.
Because I remember her telling me, like, I'll need to coordinate with their producers to make sure they're not there on the day.
That's right. Yeah.
Or if they are, like, we'll need to, like, figure something out. Mm-hmm. So she did all of that for me, which was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was super cool.
If you can, it's always been good interactions with those folks. And we got free T-shirts.
We did. That's the greatest. Yeah.
She just had them there on at the prison for us. Here's some free T-shirts.
Yeah.
I will say, remember, if you do shoot in a prison, especially a music video, bring some earplugs.
Oh, man.
Because,
we fashioned some handmade, like, with some gaff tape, and we tore
a piece of foam from, like, a Pelican case.
Like, ripped up one of the Pelican cases, made little foam inserts, and taped them over your ears.
Because, if you've worked on a music video, you can fake everything. The guitars, the vocals, the drums, you cannot
fake the drums.
You can mute them a little bit, but when you're inside a narrow cell space surrounded by concrete, those drums are going to blow some eardrums.
Yeah. The other crazy thing I did for that, the full story, was for one of the music videos, it's almost entirely all stock footage.
That's right.
It's all licensed, like, for his video. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, just logistically, like, I knew it wasn't going to be possible to get everything we wanted for the time constraints that we had.
Yeah.
And I forget who the artist was, or it may have been a director, but I remember reading like risks that had been taken on a similar project where, like, they pieced together this amazing music video entirely from stock footage.
Wow.
And no one ever knew. Because, like, if it's curated appropriately, why would you? Like, that's the intent of it, is to fill a narrative need that you have.
Right.
And we did a similar thing for Andrew. And we actually did it twice, because one of the videos is the stock footage intercut with him in the prison, and kind of this dream sequence is what it was.
Yeah.
Which is why, at least for me, the stock footage made sense. Like, if it's all just crazy dream type things, then totally cool. But then these two songs on the album that play back to back, like, it seemed to work out creatively as I'm going through the treatment to almost go from this dream state to then you waking up. So the first video is all played forward in real time. And then when the tracks cut to the next track, it immediately, on that same frame, immediately reverses, and it plays the entire music video backwards right up until the point where he wakes up, and then we have the Snorri cam one take.
Yes.
Just crazy.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't shoot as part of that was the Snorri cam stuff. I lit the scene, but Andrew had that rig on and was just doing his thing.
We were hiding in the bathroom.
We were,
like, calling directions.
So he couldn't see us.
Yeah.
So recently you DP'd a music video for Scott Stevens.
Yeah.
Tell us about that project.
That was really fun. It's Scott Stevens' latest single, Neon on You. And like I mentioned, so Cody Villalobos I met when he was still directing and doing a lot of work for the artists that are part of his management group. Cody's trying to get out of video production and wants to, like, continue to focus on being an artist manager, not necessarily like the media guy. So he reached out to myself and Booba, who hopefully we'll get on the show at some point. But Booba has a production company, Forerunner, up in Bowling Green, and they do a ton of production work. And pitched this idea. It was super rough. Like, what's great about Scott is and you know, he'll tell this same story. Like when he's writing a song and starts on the production of the song, he very much has a music video treatment already in mind. That's like, it's a part of his whole storytelling process. Like, here's the song, here's how I think it should show up as a music video. So different than how a lot of artists act, where they write the song and then you have directors pitching all these different treatments. It's great to work with Scott because he has an idea, and then we can just kind of mold and shape that into exactly what he wants within the budget constraints. Mm-hmm. So for this video, he had this idea that was, you know, inspired by The Big Lebowski. Like, it's part about like getting out, you know, post-COVID, going out with his wife. Like, you would look good with some neon on you. Like, that's the whole vibe, but in a bowling alley. So we were able to secure lanes, trains, and automobiles in Murfreesboro through a friend of my wife's. So again, like, network is everything.
Everything.
So lanes, trains, and automobiles was so giving, so gracious. We got the entire facility all to ourselves from like 8 a.m. until noon when they opened. No charge.
Wow.
So cool. It's
That's
like
really cool.
Stripped the lanes for us, everything. And then, so we had a full crew for the day. We lit the lanes. We lit the lanes two different ways. One, just, we actually didn't light it all. It's all natural, like very like kind of grungy feeling bowling alley. Mm-hmm. And then the private lanes where we shot like all the neon themed shots was just totally over the top, like massive light movers on every lane, Astera Titan tubes like all over the place. We did this really crazy, like seamless 360 shot on the Ronin where we like VFX'd the guitarist like at every angle in this one seamless like 360 shot. Just a ton of fun the entire day. But it was wild. And like we all said this all day, like it feels so unnatural being on the lanes.
the no man's land where people don't go.
Like you spend your entire life, like if you cross that little line, like the alarm goes off, it's super slippery, you're going to fall and bust your ass. Like all these things. We got to break all those rules. Mm-hmm. We had like equipment on the lanes. You know, we were super cautious, like mats and tennis balls and everything to protect the lanes. But
you had a chair out there too.
We did like the look, like we'll link the music video in the show notes, but it ended up, I think, really well for the production, like for the budget and what we were able to pull off. It was insane.
It looks great. The lighting alone is, I love colored lighting anyway. So you throw you throw some neon on it and I'm pretty excited. You know, I love that.
It would not have been what it was without our colorist either. Like Jimmy
the colorist.
Jimmy the colorist. Yeah. It just an absolutely amazing job. He works at Film Workers here in Nashville. Just super. If you ever need a colorist, you don't have to be local. He's a magician, a wizard. Jimmy the
wizard, the color wizard.
Yeah.
So what's your next project? What's on deck?
I think for me personally, I've got a micro. I don't even know if this is a thing, like a micro short. It's like a 1-page screenplay. For it. It's titled is Artemis. It's a sci-fi, almost like a social commentary on our obsession with space exploration, but yet like we still haven't figured everything out here. Mm-hmm. But it's intended to be super short, really to the point. I actually got hooked up with a VFX artist in LA through a ShareGrid connection. Like just put it out on Instagram. Like, hey, I'm looking for a Blender or a Cinema 4D artist. Yeah. This guy that I rented to, we connected on Instagram. He said, hey, check this dude out. So I sent him a message, sent him the screenplay, a couple of ideas. But like that'll be it. If we pull it off the way I think we can, this will be my first short with like legit like VFX. Like we're talking really cool. Like SpaceX, NASA, landers, astronauts, like sky replacement, like Alien World kind of thing, all in like a 90-second short.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I wish I wasn't so ambitious. Back to the question, and I could write something that was 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. I can't do anything that's under 3 pages a lot of times.
Yeah. And now that I've said it and it's out in the world,
You have to do it.
now I have to do it. So
People will be waiting for it.
yeah, I think everything, I could go and do it tomorrow. I have to figure out the VFX component. Like,
Yeah.
how much of that can or should I do practically? Like, what do I need to consider for a budget to pull it off? And that's what this guy's helping me, like, really wrap my head around.
That's good, because I know a lot of just my limited knowledge of the VFX world. It's good to consult the VFX artist before you shoot anything, just because it helps them ultimately. Because it takes them time, and the more legwork you do ahead of time, the easier it is going to be for them to do the work they need to do. So that's good. It's not hey, here's this footage I have. Can you put this here?
Right.
Then they're like, come on.
And I don't want to insult anybody, but because I watch the Corridor Crew guys on YouTube.
Me too, yeah.
They do a lot of really good stuff, and they make it look really easy. And I've learned a lot. Like, as a filmmaker, I feel like I know, like, I need an HDRI, like 360 to, like, all the things. Like, I've learned those guys are fantastic. So part of me wants to be like, hey, like, not to say that it's easy, but
you could do this, right?
I have a foundational understanding of how this would work. So you could do this, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that's, for me personally, that's the next thing that I want to knock out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into our lightning round.
Ooh.
So I get to subject you to the lightning round now.
I'm ready.
After dealing with it. And you've had some time to think about it since you invented the lightning round.
That's true.
Which is not fair, but that's okay.
Okay.
All-time favorite movie?
Top Gun.
Excellent. The last movie you watched?
All right. So this, actually just last night, I watched a movie titled Doors. And it's pretty sure brand new, probably produced through COVID, from directors Saman Cash, Jeff Dessam, and Dugan O'Neill. It's weird. Yeah, it's like a trippy sci-fi kind of. There's actually 3 different stories kind of tied into one. So each of these directors directed a different segment of it.
Oh, so almost like a vignette, anthology kind of thing.
But I don't know. It was weird. I like to give movies the benefit of the doubt. I don't read the reviews or like the Rotten Tomatoes before. Like, I'm just going to watch the trailer, and if it looks good, like, I'll buy it. I'm in it.
Yeah.
I regretted this one.
Oh, well.
I should have rented it. But another, if I could give 2, because I feel I don't want to direct. I don't want to be crazy. I watched Prospect 3 nights ago. From, I think it was like 2018, from Christopher Caldwell and Zeke Earl. And why this one, like, I want to just make sure I mention, is it was done on such a small budget as it relates to, like, something coming out of Hollywood, but also, like, super inspiring for this Artemis short that I have. Like, these guys came up with the costume concepts and, like, this whole otherworldly view that they were able to do locally outside of Seattle. If I could erase my memory of Doors, Prospect was the last movie that I watched.
We will accept Prospect as the last movie you watched.
Good.
Your favorite director?
Chris Nolan, hands down.
Yes. Great choice.
All the way back to original, like, pre-Batman, all the things.
So you're going back to
Memento and all that.
Most underrated, slept-on cinematographer?
Zoe White. She did most recently The Handmaid's Tale, which is not my type of show, but cinematography is great. But also, I think the last season of Westworld, which is just insane. Like the visual appeal and like the being able to create a look otherworldly, futuristic, like just removed from time. Fantastic work.
And this is probably a discussion for another day, but the fact that television or shows have gotten to a level that matches, movies, if not higher level. I mean, that's where it's at right now as far as quality.
And I think that like there are a ton of cinematographers that don't do feature work, that do amazing like serialized work.
Yeah. And it didn't used to be that way.
No.
I mean, it's like it's an amazing art form now. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I'm definitely team coffee. Any coffee, I don't care. Just give it to me.
Any and all coffee.
I'll take it all.
Do you like tea at all?
I do. I like chai tea. Actually, today, my drink of choice was a chai tea with a double shot of espresso. So I still got the coffee in there.
You could do a little of both, I guess.
Yeah. But that's, if I'm drinking tea, it's chai. But 99% of the time, I'm coffee.
Got it. Pineapple on the pizza?
Never. No.
An aggressive no.
No.
No indifference or
no
entertaining it.
Just throw it off the table. No.
Favorite camera?
The one that you have.
The one that I have?
No, just the whatever camera you have. Like that's the one. If I had to like pick my favorite camera, definitely the RED Gemini.
Nice.
Just is beautiful. But I think whatever camera I have, like I'll figure it out.
I like that. Keeps it flexible.
Yeah.
3 films everyone should see before they die.
All right. These, I'm pretty sure all 3 of these are available on Netflix right now. So the first one is Time Trap. And maybe I'll give you all 3 and then like connect the dots on why these 3. Because they're not classic cinematic masterpieces. They're all probably within the last 5 or 6 years. Time Trap, Arc, which is just ARQ, and then Extinction. All 3 of these they take a typical storyline or idea and tell it in such a way that is super compelling and like really entertaining. Because today, like we have phones and tablets, and it's hard to sit down and watch a movie and not get distracted by other things. All 3 of these movies and the way in which they tell their story is so entertaining. Like it's easy to put the phone away to just be focused on the movie. So Time Trap, it essentially there's this cave that is almost like a time warp, like separated from the rest. Time moves so slowly beyond the threshold of this cave that it's essentially like a time machine because you're paused in time and everything is moving so fast. And then how it wraps up is just insane, but like really good. A really good take on time travel.
I'm all for that.
Arc is similar, like very sci-fi, but it is also relates with time and like this kind of continual loop. And you've had this story told, whether it's like through Groundhog Day or similar, like repeating the same thing over and over. Again, Arc tells the story in a way that's so practical, but at the same time, you're like, holy shit, like nice.
Yeah.
Really good. And then Extinction, it's hard to describe that movie without giving away the twist at the end.
Don't do it.
So I'm not going to do that. But
because I haven't seen any of these or heard of them, so I'm going to check.
It's on Netflix. Check it out. It's really good. Also sci-fi, like futuristic androids and people and like stuff. And the twist is really good. So it's great.
I'll check them out.
Awesome.
Well, Corey, great conversation.
Bill, this has been great.
Yes, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank us both for bringing this podcast into the world.
Thank us. Nice. All right. Well, Bill, again, thank you. For our listeners, we know you have a lot of podcast options, and we appreciate you choosing us. Check us out on Instagram at InFocusPod or online at InFocusPodcast.com. To learn more about today's sponsor, Gnome Studios, you can find them online at gnomestudios.co or on Instagram at Gnome Studios. Gnome Studios is located in a century-old warehouse just outside of downtown Nashville and is a full-service recording studio. Check them out for your next project. And if you like what you heard today, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating. It would help us out a ton. Until next time, we'll see you.
Feed your crew.
Feed your crew.